3. Hello, my name is Wenix Red Elk. I'm the Public Education Outreach Specialist for the Department of Natural Resources Cultural Resource Protection Program. And today I'm going to kind of go over the event that we've been doing in the Wallowa Valley with the Wallowa Land Trust and what we've been doing for the last 4 years and the event that's coming up this spring. And we hope that some of you want to join us. Next slide. So the mission of Wallowa Land Trust is to protect the natural resources of the Wallowa County by working cooperatively with private landowners, indigenous people, the local community, and the governmental entities to conserve the land. It has been a really great partnership with the Wallowa Land Trust that reached out to the tribe probably about 5 years ago, and they first met with Tara Farrow and then Linda Sampson at the time, and they asked what we were interested in, and they really discussed having more access to private lands where we could go and look to see what available resources were there to be able to bring us back to the Wallowa Valley and to be able to practice our sovereign treaty rights that the tribal members have to be able to go and find more resources for the first foods. Next slide. So what they decided to do was to offer that to all 3 of the tribes that were descendants from the Chief Joseph Band and the Wallowa Band people that were in that area. So they reached out to the Nez Perce tribe, the Colville Reservation tribe, and the descendants. So we have some descendants from Warm Springs, Wanapum, the valley that continue to go to Joseph every year and to go back to those homelands and the Umatilla Confederated tribes because we have the shared territories over there. So it's an event that we come together to gather and to scout the lands to see what is currently available there. Next slide. So the Wallowa Land Trust Tribal Engagement Program, it is bringing together the 3 tribes, and this is one of the events that was at the Zumwalt Prairie. And at there, they had community members and landowners that gave access to the tribes and the Wallowa Land Trust area to go out to gather and harvest. And then that first year, they had the big potluck dinner that is happening where the community comes together and brings foods and everybody's able to celebrate. During that time, it was very cold and not everybody was there after basically after digging all day, but they do have the potluck. Unfortunately, I've never been able to attend that potluck because some other events usually come up. So this year I'm definitely going to be there, so I'm really excited about that. Next slide. So when we first went out there, the first property that we went out to was the Paul Flanders property. And in this reconnaissance scouting trip is what we do is when landowners give us access, we go out and do recon to recon the current area of the land or their land, and then also to create a partnership between the landowners and create some trust with them so we can bring our tribal members and our people back later. So we have had some tribal members create personal relationships where they go out and they do things with the landowners and get access throughout the year, not only just during the time of the event, but they have create personal relationships. A lot of times access goes through where you're able to contact the Wallowa Land Trust, who is the executive director is Kathleen Ackley, to be able to see if you're able to go out, if there's lands that you can access that has foods, or where you can go, which we're currently creating maps of areas that we have access in and when we can go access them. Next slide. So the first time we went out there, Brosnan, I, Linda Sampson, Bobby Vaseka, and also Bobby Hosek, and Linda Sampson, we went out to the site and we had found the Sickney, the yellow bell, and there's just tons of it out there. And then we also found couch. What we noticed that the couch was a little bit smaller, but it was more shallower to the ground. It wasn't as deep. And the taste of it was a little bit sweeter. So there's a variation difference, and I think that really has to do with the soil content and the different areas. And also on a certain part of the ridge, we found another resource. I believe we found Mummin, the one with the white flower on it along the edges where the rocks outcrop. And so we're continuing to go to different areas. This area is a more area that you have to do a lot of hiking to get into. So it's for people that have a little bit more physical ability. So that's the other thing we look at too, is what is the ability of our people if we're going to bring them out on an excursion, considering what the site is, where the site's at, what's the resource there, so we can continue to monitor and be able to return back to those sites later. Next slide. So one of the other things that we do too is to develop that partnership with the landowners. We really have to work together and to kind of educate at the same time. So when we're educating, like the importance of some of the land, like scab lands, or why they're important, and the foods that we're looking at to go harvest that is currently on their land. And so Linda's kind of talking to them about the importance and why it's important to the tribe and the treaty rights that we have, and just really creating this educational opportunity also for the landowner and their children. We're hoping that this year we might be able to go out and take some youth groups and groups from their schools to go out and just talk about them being good land stewards and looking how that is and the importance of our tribal connection back to those land sites. Next slide. So we're really pushing what is the importance of the cultural connection to the land. And because we've been removed for so long, we have also been reconnected to different areas we haven't been in. And just those feelings that come up during those times, we have a lot of just the power of reconnection. And not only our tribe, but because we're coming together with all three tribes, you have this knowledge coming together where one of us might not have a story related to the area, or another might have information about a new food that we're not aware of. And so one of the ladies, Carla from Nispelam, she was showing me what the Indian potato looks like. I believe it's possibly a spring beauty, but she was telling me different areas that she had found as she was coming to the Wallowas. And so we share kind of different locations and share knowledge between one another, which is really important. And just the impact that we have coming back to the area and that connection that we have spiritually, and being able to go to a place that our grandmothers, our grandfathers, or aunties would talk about, and getting back to that area and bringing our children back there so they don't only have stories, that they're actually practicing those tribal treaty rights and creating their own stories and connections to being able to go back to those lands to gather. Next slide. We're really working with Wallowa Trust and the landowners to really tell them about the importance of the land and history to the tribal people, and how that is for us, and then also for us to reconnect to some of the legends and stories that might have been gone, or we can reconnect with, and what's the importance of those places. Next slide. So access has really been a thing that we're working hard towards. Back in April, on April 31st, we had myself, Kathleen Ackley, Del Rey from Lapway, who came and talked to the landowners. So they had a landowner event where they invited them in, and so we talked to them about the current event that we've been doing in the Wallowas and the access to the land. And we also invited some of the landowners that we're currently working with for them to talk after us to see if there's other to reach out to the landowners to see if they would be interested in working and partnering with us and letting us assess their land and do recon to see what foods might be there or resources and the importance, and just create some type of partnership within the valley with the landowners. And so we were very excited because to the date, we have, I think we started with, she said, about 5 to 7 different properties that we were accessing, and we're up to 20 now. We went from, thousands or 10,000 acres to 77,000 acres. So currently there's 77,000 acres that we have the ability to go out to access. We have a lot of new properties that we've never been out to do recon that we currently have identified locations. So in the next few weeks, we're going to have people from the different tribes go out and look. And then we also have currently a couple tribal members that are currently on site in the Wallowa Valley, which is Trish McMichael and Beth Looney, who are flagging over there. And so I hooked them up with Kathleen, who they'll be able to talk with them, and while they're out there working in the evening time, they'll be able to go out and dig in the areas, and then also at the same time look at some of the properties to help assess what first foods are there, and hopefully find some of the first foods that we're not able to have access to. Like we don't have a lot of areas to gather luxion. We don't have a lot of areas to gather bitterroot. So to continue to look at places where we can find resources that are a little bit more sensitive and have more areas that we can go out to bring our families and to bring tribal members and tribal groups to be able to harvest in. Next slide. So this is one of the areas going over to Zumwalt Prairie. And when you travel across this land, there's a lot of things that come up just, personally, and the feeling and the power of that land and how it affects you emotionally. Me driving over here, I really had a moment where I had to actually literally stop off the road and cry for a while. And it kind of hit me all at once, but I was thinking that it had probably been, since our people had been over that ridge and over that area, that my family, being from the Looking Glass and the Wallowa band, and my grandma telling me stories about them running, I was thinking that maybe I was feeling so effective because that maybe the last time some of my family members had been over there is when they were actually leaving and running over, or that connection that our family through our DNA had of the interaction of that land. And also I was very moved by thinking that I was going to be able to help tribal members and bring youth groups working with family engagement and Dion's program and bringing people out and back to these areas so we can gather together as tribal members and tribal communities. So I'm really excited to see what we can do and to bring people back to these lands to celebrate that together, that reconnection to those areas. Next slide. One of the things that we also notice is that there's different species there. Like this couch right here is called Domadium goramami. It's a smaller version, and it only grows there in these areas in the Wallowa Valley. There's one root specifically that only grows up behind Wallowa Lake. And so some of these roots are very specific to location. The bitterroot that you have there that you see in the picture, it is also a different species. Next slide. And so the Louisia wallawensis, I really say that word. As you see, like The typical bitterroot that we usually see has the light white pink flower that when it grows right on top and it grows low. Well, this one is different. When you look, they're actually sprouting out above them, which is really exciting. So when Linda had found this, I haven't had the pleasure to be able to see this. And this grows on one specific property that they have found so far. As we access more property, we'll be able to eventually find it further out in areas that we have new access to. And so this is very exciting for us. And what I've heard is the bitterroot is just really large clumps. The skin just comes off beautifully, and it's just really great to be able to access a food that our ancestors were gathering when they were in that valley that we haven't had connection to for over 150 years, or since they were pushed out of that valley and had to run. And so it's really exciting to be back to those areas, to be reconnected to this sister. Next slide. So as the season goes on, this is kind of a little bit later in June, and as you continue to move in, and the Wallowas, what's really great about the Wallowas is because it is higher and there's more snow. So when our roots are going to seeds, these roots are still kicking in and going. This is a field on the upper part where you see the white flower, which is the new nuss, the Mariposa lily. And the Mariposa lily, it takes about 5 to 6 years to mature, and so it takes time. And I've never seen an area with Mariposa lily that's in full bloom. And as you see it in this one specific spot, that the new nuss goes from one side and it's going all the way across those white patches you see, is that, and it's really beautiful. I've seen some pretty big areas where it grows, but nothing like this. And so being able to go back to this area, so, you know, we wouldn't be able to gather a little bit, we'd be able to gather enough to kind of store and put away. It also has wild strawberries. As you go up into the National Forest area and travel along that area, which you'd want to stay there for a weekend to be able to stay out or camp in the areas to be close to the resources. But the currents there, they're just everywhere towards the upper part of the mountains as you kind of move through. There's wild mushrooms, you have your ramps, you have your onions. There's a lot of moss that is out in that area, couch. There's other different food resources that we're continuing to find too. So this is an area that, you know, you can gather in June, July, August, and all the way up. So, and we have not really assessed them so much more in the summer and the fall. So we're still coming back to this land and learning it and relearning what resources are there, and the ones that maybe we haven't seen for a long time or have been outside of our knowledge, laying dormant until we refine them again. Next slide. And so one of the really important things that Linda had said is that she really enjoyed that when she returned to there, she made new connections, physical relationships, social, emotionally, and restoring our tribal cultural well-being back to this area, and then coming together with food gatherers from the multiple communities. I don't know of an event that where we come together like this, other than in this area where a long time ago we all did come together when we came together as villages, prior to the treaties, prior to being cut off, prior to our traditional policies that sometimes, you know, locks down and protects for tribal people, but it also makes it hard for family groups that have other family members outside to be able to come together and to share stories. And so she really made some really great connections with the Colville Nisqually tribal people. And last year when I attended, I really got to know some of my Nez Perce family on the other side, where I actually had relatives on both sides. Last year, Colville wasn't able to attend because they had some sick family members where they really weren't able to come down. We had a couple of them come down who will be leading part of the feast this year. Next slide. And so this last year we had the first Wallowa Root Feast. It went very well. There wasn't a lot of promotion of it because we were still coming out of the pandemic, and they wanted to kind of keep it a little bit small because of that. This year we really want to invite all the communities to come back to celebrate with us. And this is some images from that event. Next. And these were the cooks, me with them, from, I think Carla over next to me is from Colville, and then the Nez Perce leaders for that. Next slide. So we really hope that you would be interested in joining. We have the First Foods Feast is going to be on May 21st, and this is us gathering specifically from those areas. If anyone's interested in going out helping us dig, I'm currently going up, I believe, on the 18th and the 19th to actually go out with the diggers on the site and to dig for the feast for this day. Armin Minthorn is going to be leading services for the day for the feast. The crew that will be in the kitchen will be predominantly Nez Perce, but we're also open for people to help come and cook on Saturday and assist and help with that. So I will be there also. And that will be at the Wallowa Longhouse in Wallowa, Oregon. Next. So the Wallowa Gathering event, if you're interested, my email's on the bottom, and I can send you a link that you can connect to. We do have that on the tribal websites, and I probably will have them repost again so it's up towards the front. And the Wallowa Gathering event, basically it starts with the First Foods Feast of people going over, but if you want to stay, you can sign up, and there is a reimbursement to assist with the cost of lodging and travel up to cover gas. We do have kind of a first come, first serve. There might also be other different funding available per carload. And so by registering, you can go out to the event and register. And then once you register, they'll get back to you kind of with some instructions and different things. And if you have any other comments, you can email me or call me directly. You can just call the tribe and they'll patch you right in through me. But email works the best, and then I can send you links, or even hit me up on Facebook and I can send you a link through there or pass that from there. But we don't have a lot of Umatilla tribal members signed up for the event yet, so we still do have spots open. And the root digging event will be on May 22nd and 23rd. And if you're not able to do that, if your family is going up there just kind of on your own later on throughout the year, I can also get you in touch with Kathleen Ackley. So maybe if you're in the area and you want to go out to certain areas, they might be able to let you know some places to go. Next slide. I think that might be the last one. So that's kind of all I had. If you have any questions, let me know, and then we can work from there. I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend in person today, but I have a sick child and no one to help once she's sick. So I hope you guys have a great informational series today, and thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me.
That was excellent. I'm going to stop the recording.
I carried on a little bit.